thinking about that even for myself.
Yeah.
That's a lot of weight.
And there were a few who pulled over 10 reps of that.
In the below 160 class?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
But they might have been built well for deadlifting, too.
Yeah.
And that might have been their strength. They might
Yeah.
have suffered on the precedent, which is kind of what makes strongman so much fun to watch is, like you said earlier, you can play to your strengths or your weaknesses.
You can.
And
yeah, so I love hate it. You know, nationals and worlds, I definitely wish I could cherry pick the events. You know, if I could have all pressing events, I'd be like golden. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But unfortunately, I can't. So I've learned to just adapt and overcome and train my weaknesses and know that one event does not define me.
Yeah.
So you can bomb an event and you can come out strong and still win, you know.
Yep.
So I don't let anything defeat me.
You have a very healthy relationship with failure. Just talking to you right now. Did you always have a healthy relationship with failure? Is that something you've developed over the years from lifting?
I think I've developed it through my time being a strongman competitor.
Really?
I chose that sport because I was fearful of it. It was scary to me to lift a 160-pound log over my head. It was scary to lift 90-pound circus dumbbell over my head. It was really scary to try to imagine pulling a 440-pound frame for reps. Those things scared me, and I knew that fear is what held me back when I began lifting. So going back to that 200-pound back squat and thinking, oh, well, you were so scared to lift this 200-pound back squat and it held you back. Why would you ever let that defeat you again? So I chose strongman not because I was naturally good at it, not because, you know, I was just strong for a female. All these things definitely played a role in why I chose strongman.
Which it turned out you were really good at, yeah.
But I chose it because I was scared.
Yeah.
I was terrified. My first national appearance ever, I had never picked up a circus dumbbell before. So here I am as an athlete competing with the best women all over the country, and I had never touched a circus dumbbell in my life.
Wow.
You know, so Jordan's on the sideline. Jesse and I are warming up. Jesse was competing at that competition as well, and he's instructing me on how to lift this implement during warm-ups.
That's
so
scary.
like that pressure and that just fear and being able to take it, internalize it, and then use it to my advantage has been just phenomenal through through my development as an athlete.
Yeah.
So, you know, with strongman, I choose it because it's crazy. Like, we do crazy things. You know, we lift in not normal movements or paths. You know, I'm carrying weird things. I'm moving things that I'm lifting with one arm. I'm doing things that are kind of not necessarily smart, you know. But
right, it's not an optimal position.
No, it's not.
People will see, and I've seen these comments before on Facebook where there'll be people doing these axle clean and jerks, and they'll rest on their gut and be leaning way back, and people are like, oh, and usually they think it's CrossFit, not strongman. They'll be like, oh, see, CrossFit's dangerous. Look at what they're doing. And it's like, well, A, that's a strongman movement, and B, not every movement you do in life is going to be perfect. You know, it's okay to do this every once in a while and learn how to try and do a not optimal movement safely.
Yeah. And I think with my training and the way Jordan programs for me, it's not about lifting those implements every day in the gym. Mm-hmm. You know, I could go several months without lifting an Atlas stone, but my training is developing those muscles to do it. Mm-hmm. I train my grip work. I train my back extensions, my hyperextension, my core, my inner abs. Like, I train all of those things, and then when I circle back around and 2 months later, I'm able to lift an Atlas stone and hit a 20-pound PR by not doing it every day because it is taxing on my body.
Do you think that's, I mean, like, there's obviously a lot of factors, but do you think that's part of the reason why you have a healthy relationship with failure is because you rotate exercises and events so much that there's less expectations? Like, for a powerlifter, you got the squat, bench, and deadlift. Mm-hmm. And if you fail on a back squat, you know, and like then you're like, oh, I'll retest 6 weeks later, and you fail again. You retest
Yeah.
6 weeks later. It's like, well, man, I just suck. You know what I mean?
Right,
As opposed to
absolutely.
strongman, you're just like, I've never done this before
Right.
for 60 seconds. Let's see what I can knock out. And then you rotate a medley the next day, and you're like, oh, yeah, I did pretty good on that. And then, a year, 2 years later, you retest the same one, and you're like, oh, hey, I got better.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as a powerlifter, I mean, if you're not so great at deadlifting, which I don't really think that, like, I would say that's one of my weaker lifts. Maybe actually no, I think my squat is, but like if I'm not good at that, I'm always gonna have to test that in
Right.
every event, like, or every competition. So it's just like that constant reminder of like, hey, this is my weakness. It's okay, I can have a weakness, but it's just kind of like that constant stab,
Yeah.
Whereas there's a sense of excitement in when national and the Arnold Classic events are released. This sense of excitement, like, oh, what is it going to be? What is it going to be? Like, is it going to be something that I'm good at? Will I have to do a deficit deadlift again? Or like,
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
It's
it's like
exciting.
it's like Christmas.
Yeah, it is.
What's
like,
in these packages?
Yeah, so I like that. I like that aspect of the sport. It keeps me well-rounded, and it keeps me interested.
Keeps you engaged.
Yeah,
it's
engaged.
It's easy to fall off the bandwagon when you know it's going to be the same thing all the time. So let's talk about your competitions that you've done. So you did that one competition in Florida. You qualified for nationals. So did you end up doing that nationals the month? What was it? A month later?
It was like 2 months later, I believe. Maybe 2.5 months later.
And where's nationals held at?
Nationals was in Iowa that year. It changes every year. It was in Davenport, which I think is the same area. But
I don't know Iowa very well. Yeah.
Okay, maybe not.
I believe you. Whatever it is, I believe you.
It was in Davenport.
Yeah.
It was in Iowa, so it changes every year. For some reason, they had 2 nationals back to back in that same location, which I didn't complain. I loved Iowa. It was awesome. But went to nationals there, and then Worlds, which is the Arnold, is what they call it.
Oh, the Arnold is Worlds. Okay, I gotcha.
The Arnold Classic, which is always held in Columbus, Ohio. It's just a staple.
Yep.
So, not this season, because I took this season off, but the season before that, which was my first season as a lightweight competitor.
Which is
sub 140.
Sub 140.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you normally drift around the 140s, or are you more like on the 160s when you're just walking around?
I walk around about anywhere between 150 and 154.
Okay, so that's a pretty decent sized cut then.
Yeah.
15 pounds.
It was. So my last season that I competed, nationals, was in Las Vegas. So they kind of move them around.
But Worlds stays the same.
Worlds will always be at Columbus, Ohio.
And did you like Columbus, Ohio?
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets kind of, after being there, 3 times, you're just like, well, I've kind of seen all the cool stuff already.
Yeah,
I've been to
I don't know why.
Rogue, I've
they
hit
have a
up
cool...
West Side. Like, you've been to all the cool places, so you just kind of are...
Did you get a chance to go to West Side while you're there?
I did, yeah.
How was that?
It was cool. It
It was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah.
Did you just like show up and they're like, or did you like call in advance? How did you set that up?
I actually was communicating with them about training there for a little bit, because I was trying to improve my deadlift, and they invited me to go train, and I just, at the time, it wasn't working for my life, and so I didn't go out there. But yeah, we just like, I went up there and popped in because I had been in communication with them, but
I'd
it was
love to
cool.
go there sometime.
Yeah, it was cool.
I just feel like it's a bit of history, especially while Louis is still alive.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that was this little segue. But so nationals was in Iowa, you said, right?
Iowa, my first year.
Your first year, and then Las Vegas
the third year.
The third year.
Yep.
Okay, and so did you compete at the Worlds then, or did you end up?
Yeah, I made it to Worlds every year. So,
every year. So even that first year, you made it to Worlds.
Yeah, I did.
Did you really?
I did. So
that's awesome.
It was insane. I actually got the last qualifying spot that first year, and that was the year that I never pressed the circus dumbbell before. That I learned, on the fly. So I ended up never lifting 90 pounds on any type of dumbbell overhead in training, and I hit it 4 times on the event.
Wow.
Yeah. So like, I take that experience, and when I tell people who are so terrified to compete because they can't do something, or they can't do a strongman particular event during training, or they keep failing at it, I always use that as an experience, to tell them about that experience that I had, and just tell them that, like, when you're on the floor, miracles can happen.
Yeah.
And like, you're just a different person when you're on that floor. You're a different athlete than when you're on the floor, when you're on that platform, than you are when you're in the gym, in your garage, or wherever. Like, it's just you have these superpowers that you
Yeah.
just aren't aware of. You have to trust that. You have to trust that and trust in yourself. And so, I mean, I did that year, and it was phenomenal. I have this picture, and I had like the biggest smile on my face ever, and it was probably the best moment. You know, that pressing that dumbbell was probably the best moment in my sport I've had so far.
Yeah.
Even past hearing my name being called for the U.S. team, like beyond that moment right there was like, that was it. I was hooked. You know? Like,
yeah, well, it was probably a surprise to you because you
yeah.
were just like, whoa, I was capable of so much more than I thought I was.
Yeah.
Here was this girl, you know, not that long ago that was nervous about back squatting over 200 pounds, didn't really want to do the heavy lifts, and then you just stepped out of your comfort zone. And you're like, I'm really good at this, made it to Worlds, and man, that's just crazy.
Yeah, so it was awesome. And that year, being light, I think I weighed in at like 151, and most of the girls in the 160 class would cut from 170.
Right.
So I was light. I was definitely one of the smaller athletes in my class, and I made fifth or sixth. I ended up overall, and they took the top fifth or sixth to Worlds. So I made it just by the skin of my teeth, and you know, Jordan and Jesse were just super excited. You know,
I bet.
To send, to send an athlete to the Arnold Classic is I think a big deal for any gym.
It is a big deal.
And they were stoked, and so we all trained and we made the trip, and they met me up there, and it was a blast. You know, it was an experience. Like my first year at Worlds was a lot of nerves, and it was a lot of just learning how it was gonna feel and kind of feeling it out. So I would say that my performance wasn't that great. The weights were extremely heavy for me.
Yeah.
Extremely heavy, especially now being not a 160 class, but a 180 class.
Yeah.
So the weights were pretty heavy, and I struggled a lot, but I stepped away from there. And again, I seeked out the positive, and I used that to become a better athlete. So my second year, or my second season, I chose to stay as a middleweight again. And again, I had a little bit of a rough season, and we just wanted to kind of see, you know, Jordan and I talked about it, and we just wanted to give it one more shot to kind of see if I could hang with the 160s. So I tried to gain a little bit of weight. I tried to put on a little bit of mass, and I think I only was able to gain like, 5 or 6 pounds. You know,
your body just did not want to.
I'm just a little bit too small of a frame to be that heavy, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's probably a lot of effort to eat enough. Was. And
I just couldn't put on the weight, and I just kind of was fatigued with it, mentally exhausted with it. And I finished out that second season still making it to Worlds. So I still went to the Arnold Classic. I made the U.S. team again for 2 years in a row. Yeah,
that's huge.
It was awesome. And then after we finished the competition the second year, Jordan and I, we just kind of sat down, and he was like, all right, you ready to cut? You ready to go? Like,
yeah,
you in? Because I was always very scared to cut weight.
Why were you scared to cut weight? Were you just nervous you were going to lose a lot of the lifts, like the 1 rep maxes, or what was it?
I just didn't want to do it. Like I
yeah, but why? Like, was it like the,
eat. Like,
the
I didn't want to
food
eat.
thing?
Yeah,
was
like,
it the relationship with food? Yeah.
I just didn't really care. Like, I don't know. I was nervous because I didn't know a lot about it. Like, I didn't know how it was going to feel.
So it was just uncharted territory.
I had seen people do it and know what they have to go through.
It's pretty miserable looking, isn't it?
Yeah, I just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But he was like, all right, you ready? And I just said, all right, let's do it. Like, I'm never going to know unless I try.
Yeah.
So I ended up weighing 163 that second year at the Arnold. And within 2 months, I was able to drop from 163. I was able to get down to 151. I was able to drop down. We measured my macros. I did reduced carbs on non-training days. I did fasted training. I measured my blood sugar. So I did blood sugar testing from the time I woke up all through my training and then post-training to track whether or not I was getting enough carbs. So I did a ton of data tracking with my nutrition that year.
Wow. That's intense.
Yeah. So because the Arnold was in March, and my qualifying local comp, which is now Oklahoma's Strongest Man, is what I try to compete and kind of gain my national ticket to, was in July. So I had from March to July to make 140.
Jeez.
Was basically, that was my task. That was my main priority. Because,
so you made it, though?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did, yeah.
How much did you make it by? Like, couple pounds, or was it like really close?
No, I overdid it.
Oh, did you really?
I made weight too fast. So there's a lot of strategy with making weight. You don't want